Hello everyone, welcome to Homeschool Autism Life. My name is Jamie and this week's video is all about the Gather Round unit called Europe. So we are a family who love doing unit studies. Specifically, we have been on a journey through Asia and Europe, and so I just thought the first thing that I will share with you is one of the first things that I do when I start planning a unit is I build a blank map. All of the countries all have their original countries, but there's no names on them. And so as we go through our units, I give the kids a passport stamp that I just find on Google. And then I also have them color the flag on the map of Asia. So I'm going to try and fit it in here. Yeah, like that. And so each country is colored with the map on it. And what I enjoy so much about that is that what I can do is it helps kind of solidify in our children's minds where the country is, and so then they're able to really understand where it is and really get a feel for it. And so the other thing that I did, and I will leave Asia, my planning for Asia down below, is I couldn't leave Asia without coloring the biggest country in Asia. I know it's transcontinental, but I couldn't do it, so we went straight from Europe into Asia. And so that's a big part, that's a big part of our studies into the social studies units. What I usually do is I do a social studies unit and then I will put in a science unit, kind of to break it up, but just because my brain would not allow us to move on from Russia without doing Europe, I really had to do that. So the other thing, in the next day or so, I will actually be putting the map of Europe with a hint of, or a little bit of Russia, on there, hopefully being able to use the one that we've already done. So we'll see how that works. But that's number one on my planning. Number two on my planning is I do a to-do list of things that I do. So one is the read alouds that I want to accomplish. Secondly is the assigned books. And then any movies that I've got listed, so I'll let you know what those are. I am a huge fan of the Digging for the Truth, so I'll show you those as well, video series. And then because I've already done our family history genealogy, I know for certain that we are entirely European and came over at different times, and I really love sharing that story with our kids because it really shows them how much their ancestors have affected how they live their lives and stuff. So I'll just show you. We're going to do our ancestors are from, and we've already done Russia. And so this is the story of our Mennonite relatives who came over from Russia, and I've got a pretty good storyline already, and then we're going to move into each country as we go. So that one is a really big piece of the puzzle for me as well, for our family, just because I think it shows just how God has brought us together. He's knitted us He has knitted us in our mother's womb, but has taken stories from different places, from Russia, from Switzerland, from the Netherlands, and just brought them all together at just the right time in order to meet. And then through the generations, my children, are alive. And so I really love that aspect of our homeschool. So let me share. The first thing is what my girls are going to be reading, what their assigned books are. And we've moved from book reports to narration pages just because I found they struggled with book reports, just too open-ended, and I really want them to understand and show me that they have understanding. So I've taken on a more Charlotte Mason approach with that. But this is what my Inara is going to read. She zooms through any book that I give her, and so I wanted to challenge her a little bit this time by giving her kind of a dual book. So this is The War That I Finally Won and The War That Saved My Life. And so these two books will be ones that she reads and does 4 narration pages on, just to kind of give me an idea of what she's learned. She asked about whether or not she needed to, my children are playing, whether she needed to do a narration page on each one. I said no, I just want her to have time to really ingest what she's learning about. And so these are about the World Wars. I'm trying to remember if it was the first one or the second one. Second World War. And then this one is Always Remember Me, How One Family Survived World War II. Now, I found Europe, I could do a bunch of different ways as far as books were concerned, but the World Wars played a part in our family story as far as ancestors and stuff like that goes. But also, it's one of those things, they're getting to that age of 10, 11, 12, and it was time that I just introduced it a little bit more detail. They've had a lot of different introductions to it, but I want to go a little bit deeper. So a lot of the books that you'll see have some of the ancient history, but also some of the world wars and stuff like that. So really wanted to be, especially because we'll be hitting the European, theaters of war, France, Holland, Germany, all of those countries around November 11th, and that was by design as well. So I really want to take the time to really introduce this topic to my kids and have them understand it in a little bit more detail, not going too far the other way, of course. We also got the Europe recipe book, so we will be doing some of that as well. Digging for the truth. So I have talked a bunch of times about this. Again, I have no idea if it's readily available. I've tried looking in Amazon and stuff like that, but I think it's streaming. You can probably find it in streaming services, but I really highly recommend. He's kind of a goofy archaeologist, but somewhat serious. And so we're going to be talking about Troy, the gods and warriors. So he travels to Greece and Turkey. So that's one that we're going to look at. We're going to talk about Stonehenge and the secrets revealed there. The Holy Grail. So Holy Land to the French medieval castles and to Hitler's Germany. So the next one that we're doing is Iceman Cometh. So this is, he voyages to the high Alps. And so we're going to talk about the ice mummy that they found. And then Pompey's secrets revealed. And he goes to Vesuvius. So I really love it might not be on topic of what we've been talking about, but it gives little hints and stuff about, and really in-depth discussions about some things that happened in history in these countries. And I really love sharing that. October 31st is coming, so this is going to be one of the read alouds that we do, just because I want Halloween not to just be about going and getting dressed up. I want to explain what it's about, so this is one of our read alouds. our homeschool is called Mount Edith Cavell because this is over our homeschool space. And so I'm really excited to read the actual story of Nurse Edith Cavell to the kiddos because it happened in Europe and how she helped people in the First World War. We've already read this one because we did Russia in Europe, or in Asia, excuse me. So we read this one. I really enjoyed the pictures and just the general telling of what he did for Russia. I will be reading this at some point. I don't know if it'll be a read aloud or just something that I read elsewhere, but I got this off of Twinkl. I'll try and leave a link down below for this one as well. And it's just a kid's story telling of the Second World War. There's some beautiful illustrations and it's not too graphic and it explains what happened very well. Another read aloud that we're going to read is Snow Treasure. So this one is about the people of Norway, I believe, which is a part of our ancestry. And it talks about how the people, Norwegian, yes, it talks about how the people fought back from the German occupation. I heard wonderful things about this very old book called Only a Dog about the First World War. So you can see a theme here. There's First World War books and Second World War books. And so I really wanted to give them an idea of just what what Europe was like during this time of great conflict, and what we're going to be doing about that. But it's one of those books that is actually quite quick, but it's about a dog who is involved in the world wars and how he meets soldiers from both sides. And I love the idea of just how, you know, like the Christmas occasion where they were in no man's land and having Christmas, we're human beings and we're not meant to be fighting with each other and trying to kill each other. So that's what I like about that. The Little Ships, the heroic rescue of Dunkirk in World War II. This is just a great little picture book. I've realized as I've gone on in homeschooling, I am not including as many picture books as I probably should. And for my kids, it's one of those things where as I was doing the picture book recently, it was amazing how much more attention I was getting. Excuse you. But I just love the detailed drawings and stuff like that. Another thing, my kids, specifically my son, is a huge fan of Curious George. And so this is another book that I really wanted to get. The Journey That Saved Curious George. And it's something that I think kids would be interested in, not only because it's something that they, but to understand that even the authors, the people who write these stories and the lives that they've had to go through to deal with it. So movies that I'm interested in having the kids watch is Anastasia. It's not historically factual, but it is one of those ones that I think will just be a fun addition. You get to see a little bit of the Russian culture and that sort of thing, which is going to be fun. It also has times in France. And so again, it's putting that European flavor together for my kids. The Sound of Music, I would like to watch, especially when we're doing Germany and Switzerland around that time. Robin Hood, the Disney movie, for when we're in England. Again, goofy, silly. It's the fox and the hen, and it's not meant to be historically factual, but fun. Heidi, Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady. I'm looking into The Boy of the Striped Pajamas. If you have any World War I or World War II movies that you show your children aged 13 to 10, I would love to have your input. haven't been able to find one that I don't feel is particularly tamed down enough that I want to show my kids. I have tons and tons of documentaries and stuff like that, but there's just so much violence and sadness and stuff like that. It's one thing to talk about, it's another thing completely to show them. So I'm really looking at trying to show them, but not, you know, I've heard somebody say it's like giving them parcels of information that you know that they're capable of accepting, and then each year as they get older, giving them a little bit more information. I want them to understand what it looks like. We're also doing some of the Torchlighter episodes. There is one that is about Corrie ten Boom, which I feel is completely appropriate for the age level that my kids are in. So if nothing else, I will be doing that one. But there's several missionary stories about St. Patrick for Ireland and stuff like that in the Torchlighters video series, and so we will be watching that. My daughter's jumping up and down in excitement that I will be showing them so that they get a good idea of what it's been like to minister in these places. So the last thing that I'm going to show you is just the books that I have in our book magazine thing that will also be, they'll be able to pull from, they'll be able to look at as we go along. So because we're Canadian, I have a few. This Kayak Magazine series, I just print these out on my computer and then bind them myself. But it's remembering the Great War and Canada's contribution. And this is one of those times where Canada actually came into its own country. We weren't just a British colony anymore. Some of the people who really made a difference, like Arthur Currie and stuff like that. So it's a kid's version of. And then Discovering Canada, the Great War. This is another one that I like to pull from as I go along. I have some ancient travelers' guides to ancient Rome, so Italy, and medieval life in England. The Knight's Book, so medieval England and other places. Secret Hideouts, true stories of daring and surprising hideaways. So there's a lot of fun. Some of it isn't entirely European, like Butch Cassidy is American. So Girls Who Looked Under Rocks. So again, this is one of those ones that talks about different ladies in different places who did amazing things as naturalists. The Candy Bomber, story of Berlin's aircraft chocolate pilot. So after the war, he was sending essentially children little treats to brighten their day. And so this is a story of that. A really old Usborne book, The Time Travelers to Rome and Romans. Knights and Castles. Spy again, The Tales of Failed Espionage. This one is a, graphic novel, and it's just kind of funny how some spy crafts didn't go as well as planned. The Singing Tree, so this is about Hungary, there we go. A Mary Poppins book, The Endless Step, so this one is about Russia as well. Now some of these books we won't get into, but I know the next time we do this, we will. Heidi, Florence Nightingale, Louis Pasteur, George Friedrich Handel, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who was series, Isaac Newton, Louis Braille, Leonardo da Vinci, and Where is the Kremlin? And so these are all books that I have readily available for the kids to look at and enjoy. The last thing that I was going to show you is I got this Historic Canada, and it's talking to a lot of different war veterans, and I really suggest if you look into something like this, If you look into something like this, really watch them ahead of time just to make sure that it's appropriate for your children. But it's talking to people who had been in the war, and my brain is losing that word, veterans, there it is. Second World War, Korean War, Cold War, peace operations in Rwanda, Somalia, Afghanistan, that sort of thing, and then the war in Afghanistan. So I wanted to have my kids hear from the people who were actually there. And then the last thing that I thought, oh, and I missed a book. This one is a lot of fun. It's just practicing spycraft with some, they have like a spycraft kit included. So it's been one that's already been pulled out by my kiddos. And then I have the complete version of Pride and Prejudice, the one with Colin Firth. And it's the best one, or kind of the best one. But I just really wanted to give the girls a little sneak peek into what it was like to live in England at the time that this was written in. So I hope that this has been fun and interesting, that you've enjoyed looking at all the things I've collected for our Europe study, and I hope this helps. So happy homeschooling and have a wonderful day. Bye.